It's currently 11:42 p.m. I just prepared this double portion of instant ramen with some sausage, leftover sausage. My dad cut up for me today. Around the time I was reviewing first the audio and then the video of the December 17, my dinner video, so that I could then delete the U-Cut video file I had uploaded to my YouTube channel yesterday. As well as the raw video files I used to make it. To make room for the December 18, my dinner video, which I'm currently uploading to my YouTube channel. After editing the U-Cut video project file for that video, I'm uploading that video to my YouTube channel, the December 18 my dinner video, while filming this one on my phone. And I did what I described earlier. After roughly from 8 to 9 p.m., planning on using these Sharpie markers to draw and then color the Buster Sword from the Final Fantasy franchise as part of the Moogle Polystyrene drawing project, which I didn't work on today, despite getting home around 3:15 in the morning. I mean, 3:15 p.m. I got home at Dad's place around 3:15 p.m. after my shift at Wegmans, which was from 9:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. Around 8:30 in the morning, I had several slices of pepper jack cheese, with a cup of plain coffee. Though that cup of coffee was from the Good Morning mug, which is larger than a typical coffee mug, so it's probably more than one standard cup of coffee. I recall finishing all of the cheese and that cup of plain coffee from the Good Morning mug. Shortly before my mom came to pick me up and take me to work at Wegmans. Today was a pretty typical day. I restocked merchandise within the produce department. While offering some customers that passed by help. Though generally those who requested help or needed help approached me rather than me approaching them. And so I occasionally helped customers while restocking merchandise within the produce section. At one point, I helped a female customer by putting in more turnip greens into one of our smallish plastic bags that are provided high up. Throughout the produce department. For merchandise that is fresh, as in it comes unpackaged, which is generally items within the convenience walls. They're not very big. Those bags about the size of, I would say, a largish sandwich bag or so, maybe bigger than a sandwich bag, but smaller than, about a little smaller than a typical plastic bag. That supermarkets like Wegmans used to have. And these bags for fresh items with the fresh produce items merchandise that comes with PLU codes for the scales within the produce department. Yeah, those bags are made of pretty thin plastic. I recall putting in a total of 5 bunches of turnip greens into that bag. Yeah, while putting in the last 2, kind of hoping that the bag wouldn't tear. Thankfully, it didn't. Yeah, but by the time I got the last of the turnip greens, each bundle of which it had to be approved for freshness or looking good by the customer before I put them in the bag, which is perfectly fine. Customers generally want to get merchandise that looks good, especially when it comes to the produce department. When I got the last of the turnip greens that she wanted in the bag, another customer had to kind of help me kind of turn that whole bag upside down to put it into another one of those plastic bags. As by the time I got the last of the turnip greens in, the bag was too full to have any chance of tying the top with one of those little green plastic ties we have, along with those plastic bags. I recall today the produce holding area being pretty full, being pretty packed, but otherwise, thankfully, being organized. Didn't seem cluttered. Well, any more than otherwise it seeming to have a lot of stuff in it. There seemed to be noticeably more customers during the early to mid-afternoon period. Compared to the mid-late morning period, which was when I started my shift. I took my one and only 15-minute break for today. at 2:30 p.m., during which I had the lunch, which consisted of the sandwiches my dad made and packed for me into a sort of plastic bag of sorts. Those sandwiches were made and packed yesterday. I initially thought they were peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but they turned out to be cold cut sandwiches. Sandwiches with cold cuts such as turkey and cheese and some mayo, from what I recall, along with a kombucha spritzer that was also packed. But I had that lunch more towards 2:45 p.m. because during my 15-minute break I went to the bathroom first. This seems to be some kind of chocolate Danish. That was part of a sort of box of 2 that my dad got from the Salty Bread pizza place today. I recall having a second cup of coffee from the Good Morning cup. That consisted of what was left of the morning pot, my dad made, after I got back from Wegmans around 3:15 p.m. And I recall finishing that second cup of plain coffee by 4 p.m. After that, I don't recall doing much. For the rest of today. I recall it not really snowing today, though throughout today there was some snow on the ground. But thankfully, and not too much. I'm just saying that there was enough snow that the grass was covered in it, but it was still about an inch or two of snow from what I observed. throughout today. That was on the ground in total. Shortly after getting the hard badge on Underworld Idol, roughly from 9:45 p.m. to about 10 p.m. at the latest, I played this game Snowball on Kongregate. And I only really played it for about 15 minutes because that was how long it took me to get all of the badges for this game, which consisted of one easy badge and one medium badge. The easy badge for reaching a Yeti level of 10, and the medium badge for defeating 150 Yetis in one run. And that was on my second run, because on my first run, for most of my first run, I wasn't aware until I clicked the game tab, the game info tab that's to the right of every game window, to find out that you hold down space in order to shovel snow. For my first run, I threw snowballs, built some kind of slippery ice stuff. I ran out of snow after building that patch of ice on the ground. Through the game tab, found out you hold down space to shovel snow. Then, despite my efforts, I only really reached a Yeti level of 7. And for this game, it's just one continuous survival, a sort of endless survive mode. And I only bothered to check the game tab, I think, after getting hit by some Yetis. These Yetis in this game can drain your health pretty quickly, as I found out at one point relatively late into my second run. And that was after building a sort of 6x5 square of the snowball turrets, which launch snowballs at the Yetis, but because all of the snowballs thrown by the turrets are so concentrated, the Yetis can effortlessly dodge all of the snowballs unless you put yourself between the Yetis and the turrets. Which I did in order to ultimately get the medium badge after getting the easy badge for this game, but it was an enjoyable experience. I thought that it looked a bit out of place for 2023, but then found out it was apparently made in 3 days for a game jam. This game was an enjoyable experience, all things considered. Though it does seem the Yetis can basically instantly destroy patches of ice and snowball turrets upon making direct contact with them. Though I think the ice patches last a bit longer, since I think those are meant to slow the Yetis down. when they're chasing you. If they happen to go over those ice patches,